My name is Jason J. Rock Houston, and you are listening to Remembering Woodstock. And my co-host today, as always, is Vince Lupo, the drummer from the LA-based Rolling Stones tribute band, Mick Adams and the Stones. Now, before we get into talk about Woodstock today, Vince, I wanted to give you the opportunity because since we last did Remembering Woodstock, I'm aware that you temporarily, you're not going to be performing with the band for a while. Do you want to get into that and let people know what's going on? Or it's on a temporary basis, from what I understand?
Well, it's a temporary basis because it's about the COVID thing.
Okay.
I'm not I'm an older guy now.
Yeah.
And playing in enclosed places is the dicey proposition.
Yeah.
I'd also not like if I knew that a performance that I was involved in had led to somebody being sick, anything like that.
I hear you. That's great.
So anything that might be outdoors or
you could play.
Of a different nature, that's different.
Oh, okay, okay.
But it's like, think of it as a leave of absence, but based on all around this COVID-19 thing, it's just can't take chances, my friend. Can't take chances.
I just wanted to let people know that rather than going by rumors and stuff, ask the man himself, So
absolutely.
Let's get into this now. This is episode 3 of Remembering Woodstock, and today we're going to be talking in detail about Credence Clearwater Revival. Of course, they were one of the bands you missed. You were telling me about, and what's kind of cool is
just missed.
What's kind of cool about that is since we last talked, Vince, I got a hold of this Credence Clearwater Revival Live at Woodstock CD that was recently put out this year. And what's interesting is I went on the official Woodstock page, www.woodstock.com, and it'll tell you, if you click on 1969, it'll give you a list of like every band that played the event, and it'll tell you their set list. And on the CD, what's cool about this is you don't just get part of the songs they played that day, you get the entire set list, which is kind of a cool thing. So talk a little bit about, since you missed the Credence Clearwater Revival performance, I'm sure you've heard all about it. You've heard stories from people that've seen it. Talk a little bit about how you became a CCR fan initially.
Gotcha. Well, before I was actually playing in bands, right in the very beginning of getting into a band, I was able to get a hold of their first album, just titled, self-titled.
Yeah.
And it had 99 and a half.
Oh, that's a good one,
And a bunch of those, Suzy Q, those... And it was just great. It was fresh sounding to me at that time, and compelling listening. Rock music that was almost blues based, country based. It was a very interesting mix of songs.
A little bit of everything for you.
A little bit of everything. And the next album that had Green River, and it had that, and Proud Mary, and all of that was a monster seller. So and it had all the big hits, including, of course, Proud Mary, and wore the grooves off of that record, and then the following 3 that came out of that. The band I had just gotten into in March of 1968. We're also fans of these guys, as it turned out. So we played virtually the entire second album from cover to cover.
Oh, wow.
The bits and pieces of the really well-known songs off the first album and the third album and the fourth album. We were junkies.
Oh, wow.
We were junkies, yes.
I got to ask, being a drummer, what do you think of Doug Clifford as a drummer?
I love him. Super solid. Real tasty, doesn't overplay, and when you really listen to that band, those drums drive that band.
I'm not a musician myself, but I am a music lover and music fan, and I'll tell you, reason I asked you about what you thought of him as a drummer, because one thing I always notice anytime I see a CCR video of him playing, I focus in on I don't know why it is, just the way he holds his drumsticks. Is there anything special about that to you?
No, not really. It's a comfort thing, I think. You learn a certain way and you get comfortable. If you go and you watch those performances on the newer version of the Woodstock movie, has 4 of those songs performances, you could see the intensity with which he plays, and that's what I really love. The guy just really, all the way deep down, just rocks it out for them, and they thrive off of that, or thrived off of that. Their CCR Revisited band, which has the bassist
Stu Cook and Doug Clifford,
right, right, Stu Cook. They are very faithful to the originals, and today with Fogerty, John Fogerty, and God rest Tom's soul. With John, he can still sing.
Oh yeah,
those songs in those original keys, and he's doing it with his kids. So as far as Clifford goes, I couldn't have asked for a better person to pattern some of those the playing, and plus in those songs he does so many of those signature licks.
Oh yeah,
they're called, and I just love when I play those songs. I still to this day love incorporating those licks, and then getting looks from the guys in the band or the people in the audience go, the recognition of knowing what those licks are. Yeah,
before we get any further, I'd like to give you a little bit of trivia here, see if you even know this, because oftentimes, like, I know when I first heard the name Credence Clearwater Revival, I'm like, what is that? How the hell did they come up with a name like that? Any idea what Credence is?
Well, to give credence to something is to confirm the truth.
Okay, well, here's a funny story. I actually heard I think you can find this online. I actually heard it was an old interview the guys did, and they were talking about the fact that Credence was actually the name of a black guy, a black friend of Tom Fogerty's, and they're like, hey, let's call it Credence. So that's an interesting story there. And Tom Fogerty, I don't think he really gets the credit he deserves, and I'll tell you why. Because I've heard John Fogerty in interviews, kind of he sounds like he's got a bit of an ego. I guess when you're that talented, you're welcome to have an ego. But it was actually because John met Stu and Doug. They were like closer in age, and Tom was the older one. And he actually met Doug and Stu, like I think in junior high, and they started playing music together. And actually, it was Tom Fogerty that he was a little older. He's out of school, and I think he'd started trying to take a shot at being a professional musician. He actually done some recordings, and before there was ever a CCR, Tom Fogerty had these guys back him up on some of his early solo recordings.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, the only thing I could think of is if there's no brothers, there's no band.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because as you know, it's kind of a sad story because, like I said, John met Stu and Doug when they were kids in school, and they started playing music together. And then once the band took off, kind of, they got to a point where they just hated each other. Even the two brothers, there was competition because I guess Tom and John both wanted to be the lead singer, and that's where a lot of it, kind of started. And I actually seen an interview where John Fogerty was saying, people say these are Credence songs. No, these are John Fogerty songs. I wrote all these songs. And he was saying, and I heard him talk several times over the years about, I had to teach other guys how to play their instruments, but it's kind of very interesting as a musician yourself, like you picked up on what other guys kind of brought into the band. And I do believe no matter what band we're talking about, every member kind of brings something into the picture, which is why you take one of those guys out of a band, it's going to change the sound even just a little bit.
Well, that's right. There's chemistry.
Yeah.
It's a true thing in life when it comes to bands and the balance of what happens in a band. And that's what makes a band, that no member is any more special than the other. The Beatles.
Yeah.
The Stones. Any of the bands through history are different if you change one guy out and put a different guy or woman in.
Yeah. And
it just is.
And talking about CCR, the proof of that, I think, is in the fact that in 1971, when Tom Fogerty finally, decided he'd had it with his brother and couldn't get along with him anymore, made the decision to give it a shot at a solo career. It's kind of funny. First of all, they decided, okay, we're not going to replace Tom. We're going to just remain a three-piece. And then the one album they put out after that was like the worst-selling album. It's kind of funny, but the tunes that are all popular were hits were ones that all four guys were on.
Well, I know that the last one I bought was Cosmo's Factory.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that was the 4th album in the run.
Yeah.
And then they had Up Around the Bend and all of those, which
great songs.
Were part of that record.
Yeah.
That was about as far as I took it with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then right after that, I don't honestly recall that the 3-piece album. I probably just ignored it when it came out.
I think a lot of people did, and that's what I was saying. It was called Mardi Gras, and I think that was a worst-selling album, and that's what I'm saying. You know, you take one guy out, and it's amazing. Even though John Fogerty wrote most songs and was a great lead singer and everything.
Absolutely. And let's think of the one-band Journey. Okay.
Yeah.
When they got rid of Steve Perry, wasn't the same.
Yeah.
Just wasn't the same. They went on.
Yeah.
It just wasn't the same. Anybody who leaves a band changes the
sound.
The chemistry of the group, changes the sound of the group, the feel of the group. No two drummers play alike. Two drummers play alike.
Yeah.
No two guitar players play exactly alike.
Yeah.
So and so on. Everybody has a unique voice.
Oh yeah.
That comes out of your mouth.
Yeah.
So the tone is slightly different. Even though you might sound like someone, you're not that person. And that's all. But what a great group, a great string of hits, about a 5-year run, a wonderful run, and a really wonderful place in rock history.
Yeah, and you know, it's kind of a great story and a very sad story at the same time because, like I said, all the feuding that went on in the band, and you know, even after the band broke up, I guess John, you know, obviously still talked to his brother Tom, but they were not very close, and they'd only get together, from what I understand, like once a year at Christmas and that. And then after their mother passed away, they hardly, you know, even talked to each other. Very, very sad thing. And I even remember when the band got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you know, Tom had passed by then, and John was talking about the other guys in the band, and he brought up Tom. He didn't even refer to him as my brother. He's just like, my former bandmate Tom is not here, blah blah blah. And they had Tom's son, you know, kind of accept the award for him. Just kind of very sad way it ended, you know.
Yeah, that kind of angers me a little bit. It's sad to hear John go on like that still.
Yeah.
Like, let it go, dude.
He's dead. You outlived him, okay?
Really, you won.
Yeah.
But great songs. When back in that day when I first got into this band called Chapter 4 from high school, who I still am fantastic friends with today.
Wow.
And we have gotten together on long occasions, many years in between, and still played. And in fact, last year, cover your ears, folks.
Okay.
Last year, we got together to play for our 50th high school reunion.
Wow.
Exactly. And the magic, the feel is still there. You know, still there. So these songs made up a good portion of what we did. Everything. We're a variety, classic rock band. At that time, it wasn't known as classic rock.
Yeah. It was a classic rock then. Yeah.
But all of these songs, we tried them in rehearsal. Many of them we actually got to play out through the years. And on a personal note, with Proud Mary, it's one of the songs that it's a prerequisite. If you're going to do a classic rock band, you're going to probably do this song. You know, so it's kind of worn out its welcome. Yeah, but through the years, it still has held up.
Well, and I'll take that a step further. For anybody who doesn't know us that's listening to this, Proud Mary is actually a cover tune. It was originally an Ike and Tina Turner song, but Credence did such a great version that they really made the song all their own. And a lot of people have never even heard the original version or totally forgot about it, you know?
Well, I kind of thought it was the other way around, my friend.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Ike and Tina Turner did that afterwards.
That's why we're talking to you, Vince. You're the man, you know, that knows all this.
Sure that's the way it went.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for correcting me on that. But still, you know, it proves my point either way. That Credence did such a great job of it that that's the version that gets remembered.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And a lot of the cover, I'm doing air quotes. Yeah. The covers on their records were more of the traditional ones that they revived their way into more of a country rock kind of a feel or a blues feel. Oh yeah. So they weren't averse to covering songs. Yeah. But they would cover stuff that was all but forgotten in our musical lexicon, and revived stuff. It made it fresh to us kids.
Oh yeah. And see, that's the thing, is Credence wasn't necessarily one of those bands that had to cover other people's material just to have a hit. You know, that's what a lot of people did back in the day. But they were such great original songs that they had. You know, that's what made them, I think, really such a great band. You know, and then I'll tell you another song that I really dug of theirs. It's a little different for what they did, like "Looking Out My Back Door." That's kind of like a little fun ditty, country diddly.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And then we did that one back in the day, and we just loved that. It was fun to be able to cover a whole variety of styles. Yeah. Fortunately, I can replicate a number of different styles. You can't have a variety of band if you don't have guys who can play a variety of styles.
Yeah, and it's funny because I don't know if you've ever seen, there's a music video for it. If you go on YouTube, you can type in "Looking Out My Back Door." There's this old like black and white video clip of all the guys kind of sitting in a room together in a circle, like playing. And it's probably one of the few times you see these guys like Tom Fogerty's got a huge smile on his face, and the rest of the guys are just kind of having fun, you know, playing together. And I think that's like a fun little thing when you know that these guys really couldn't stand each other. But it's a lot of times, like we were talking before, Vince, when you have a band that, you know, where the guys really can't stand each other, there's tension, for whatever reason, it creates great music.
Yeah, right. Really true. Yeah. There's a funny note about "Looking Out My Back Door." I always thought of it as, from back in the day, the Kellogg's Corn Flakes theme song, which was you're gonna laugh. The guitar dual solos that are competing solos, that very much like what was then known as the Kellogg's Corn Flakes theme song. And every time I hear that, I just go right to that silly thought. Anyway. Yeah, and you know, another song that is an interesting kind of note on is a Traveling Band. And I heard that they got sued not by Little Richard, but like his record label, because they thought that sounded too much like Good Golly Miss Molly, and they actually won the case against Credence. Well, you know that they put in a piece of Good Golly Miss Molly into one of their other songs. And by the way, Traveling Band happened to be my favorite song of theirs to play. Just because it just moved along, it really booked, and I just love to be able to replicate that very ending, that drum. That drum ending is just so fun to do. Just what a fun music, uplifting music. You know, they weren't political. We're going to talk about the Airplane probably in our next time. They were very political. Now, when I went online today to do a little research on Credence, they actually had them listed as a psychedelic band.
Wow,
they
interesting.
Came from San Francisco. I know. They came from San Francisco, but I don't think of them as psychedelic.
Yeah, maybe the Grateful Dead, but not these guys. And I think the most political Credence ever got was the song "Fortunate Son," because from what I understand, John wrote it about the draft and about being in the reserves and the Vietnam War.
Absolutely, and that was one of those Vietnam, hell no, we won't go.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a big one. That was a really big one, and it's another fun one to play. Fortunate Son.
And then
really good.
Another one, kind of like the last huge hit they ever had, was "Have You Ever Seen the Rain," which I understand John Fogerty wrote kind of about the breakup of the band. He could feel that it was on the way.
Right.
Yeah.
here's an interesting thing about that song. That was one of our regular songs to play. We played, our band became a house band in a place called Wales College Lounge, a town called Selden, Long Island, way back in the day. And we have, and I still have a friend, a dear friend. Her name, and we went to college together. Her name is Lorraine Momola, who, what a sweet gal, still living on the East Coast. Yeah. And we used to sing, "Have you ever seen Lorraine?"
Oh, wow, that's cool. Wow.
Just for the fun of it. She was our coat check gal and good sport and a wonderful human being. So, Lorraine, if you hear this, hello.
So let me ask you, Vince, the first time you ever did that, did you tell your friend Lorraine you're going to do it, or was she there when you played it, or what was that response like?
No, my friend Frank was singing it, and I think it just kind of came out one night.
Wow. Okay.
You know, just during singing the lyrics, it was one of those fun things, and then we just kept it up. You know, kept the joke rolling there and we always still, when that song title comes up and we're around, we always bring that up. So. And
I got to ask you, somebody that's played these songs. Another song I like that's kind of like a ballad, a little softer type of tune is "Who Will Stop the Rain," and it's kind of interesting because these two songs, "Who Will Stop the Rain" and "Have You Ever Seen the Rain," titles are very similar, and they, to me, when I listen to both songs, they sound very much alike. I don't know why that is.
Well, just very similar styles. Sometimes, you get into when you're writing, sometimes you pick up on a genre or a style or an influence. And you can hear that they were very much influenced by songs from the South. But had that West Coast sensibility. That they added to it. They were almost like a folk rock band that just became a plain old
rock band.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of. I heard John Fogerty talk about one of the guys that really influenced him in particular was Robert Johnson.
Oh the old blues, the old blues, and they do some of the blues 99 and a half. That's a blues song. There's a number of others that are blues based. Just a great collection.
In fact, bringing up 99 and a half. Won't do. That's one of the songs featured on the Live Woodstock CD.
Sure is.
And I think what people are going to enjoy about this CD, not only having finally having a live recording, at least of a performance, is the fact that this is when CCR was really they're very babies. They were just in their infancy, and you're not going to get a lot of the bigger hits we're talking about on here, but you're going to get a lot of the stuff from the earlier albums, which is kind of a cool thing as a fan to have.
Absolutely. Hey, for you fans that are listening, here's a rundown of the songs that they played live. Born in the Bayou, Green River, 99 and a half, Won't Do, Bootleg, Commotion, Bad Moon Rising, Proud Mary, I Put a Spell on You, The Nighttime is the Right Time, which is an unusual thing to have heard from them, Keep on Chugglin', and Susie Q. I'm telling you folks, you haven't had more fun listening to a band play live than these guys. Wow.
And I got to ask you, Vince, as a guy that was there at the event and actually attended Woodstock, but you told me, man, I just missed their performance. I don't know if you had a chance to hear the whole CD yet, but just to have this thing to kind of play back and okay, so that's what I missed out on. I mean, what's that like?
Don't rub it in. That they happened to come on after midnight or so. We got there, I told you, around 5:30. And right before them, at sunup was coming up was The Who. So we had literally just missed them.
Wow.
And then the airplane did the morning Maniac music. Well, that was the one that, as I said in a previous episode, when we got there, somebody turned to us as we were laying our stuff to get on the ground or lay out our blankets. You missed it. You missed what? Credence Clearwater Revival rocked the house.
Wow.
And I'll never forget that was the phrase that was used in just that way.
Wow. Yeah.
They rocked the house. Oh, you never made six people feel so bad.
But I will say this, Vince. Don't feel too bad because all these years since the event, there's been like this little bit of a mystery about their performance, because I heard John Fogerty say part of the reason he didn't want their performance included in the original movie, because he's like, look out there and, you know, half the people are asleep. We didn't have like a real huge audience, and so as great as they were, a lot of people missed what they were doing. You know, there weren't that many people there at that time, or they were asleep, from what I understand.
That's correct. But, you know, they soldiered on.
Yeah.
And that was one... you couldn't tell by the playing. I thought that the playing was perfectly fine, the way that they went about their business. And there must have been other factors that were at play that annoyed them as to why that they didn't want to be included on at least on the first wave. But I'm glad that they got in, especially them and Janis Joplin. I'm glad that some of that stuff made it into the second cut.
Yeah, let me ask you, as a performer yourself, Vince, have you ever had any kind of experience like that where, you know, you have people in the crowd, but it wasn't a huge crowd like you were expecting, or didn't sell as many tickets, but you kind of, like they say, the show goes on and you're up there on stage playing your drums? I mean, what's that like as a performer?
Oh, what does that feel like?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, that's happened. It doesn't happen often.
Yeah, but when it does, yeah.
And at first, you wonder, are they going to like us? How much more do we have to energy do we have to put out in order to pull them in? And sometimes it's overblown. And sometimes it's not. But that's part of the insecurities of
being a performer.
Of who some performers are. You know, you want to be loved. I mean, that's why you're up there. To get that immediate feedback, that applause, or you know, that sort of thing, the cheers. That's so. We deliver something, they deliver back. That's the feedback loop. It just keeps going until the end of the performance. So, can it be a struggle? It can be. Does it have to be? No, because once you mature and you understand this is another gig, let's just go do it. You're doing it for yourself, for your peace of mind, for your pride. For your professionalism, that you don't want to let people see what's on the inside, sometimes upsetting you, bothering you. You just got to put on a happy face, and the show goes on. It really does. Once it starts, it doesn't stop.
Yeah, I'll tell you the reason I asked that is because, you know, just kind of talking about CCR and hearing John Fogerty talk about, you know, half the people were asleep and we didn't have a huge audience and stuff. I think it's cool when a band gets up on there and they're like, okay, we don't have a huge crowd like we thought we were going to, but the show must go on. We're going to play for the people that did come to see us, you know?
Absolutely. If it's 5 or 5,000, it doesn't matter, you know? You have to put on what's the best way for me to put this? Your reputation is at stake each time you step on stage.
I think
each and every time you have to prove yourself.
I think either way, like, if you don't have a huge crowd or you didn't sell a lot of tickets for whatever reason, I mean, it could be something as simple as the rain. You know, people don't like to drive in the rain. And on one hand, if you kind of just, you know, you kind of just checking it in and you're not playing to the best of your ability, you're like, oh, we don't have a huge audience. We're not going to, we'll just end the set early or something like that. People are still going to talk. The people that went to the show, they're going to like, oh man, those guys, you know, they sucked or whatever. And they're going to tell their friends. So either way, people are going to be talking about you, but you'd rather than saying good things about, like, man, those guys, they went on stage and they did it just like they were playing to a sold-out crowd, you know?
I hear you. I've got a confession. I have a hard time mailing it in. I have a hard time personally with that, you know, because of the many things that I just was telling you. There's a pride. I mean, you're up there. You should have professional pride to do your best, because these people, whether they paid money or not, or paid $100 for a ticket or $2 for a ticket, doesn't matter. They deserve your best when you're on stage.
Now, talking a little bit about being a professional musician, I'm kind of getting off subject here, but I was kind of interested. Your current situation with the band, I know, is temporary, but you are one of the founding members of the band, so I was curious myself. Like, as far as finding a replacement member, are you going to play a role in that as far as who they pick to fill in for you, or are you going to leave that to the band?
No, going to leave that to Mick and Erin, who the band is theirs.
Okay.
And then she's put out, say a casting call.
I hear you. Yeah, that's cool.
And get a few people in to audition and get their best person in that can get them through. But that person has to really feel it. You got to feel that music. Can't. It can't just be anyone. And to take that a further step, I was curious. Like, let's say the band, they get a fill-in drummer temporarily, and when they go and do that first show, obviously you're not going to be at the show, but do you think you'll be checking out the clips, like when they put them on YouTube, just to kind of? Of course. Yeah. Why not? Yeah. That's kind of cool. Like cheering your band on, even though you're not up there on stage. That's cool. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Life goes on. Things happen, and believe me, not one person on earth, no one expected this. Oh yeah, and I will say this. No one expected. I will say this, Vince. Like you were telling me when we were talking a few weeks ago that you formed a band like 11 years ago, I think you said. That's right. And so you've been doing, as far as playing the drums in the band, you've been doing it all the time, and you're playing the role of Charlie Watts, and so. When people come to see Mick Adams and the Stones, they're expecting to see you. So I think while this is just many people will see it as just a tribute band. You guys are like one of the premier Rolling Stones tribute bands out here, and I think whoever does kind of temporarily fill in for you, they're gonna when fans come, they're gonna really be checking that person out and say, okay, has he got it down like Vince does? And so there's gonna be. As big of a deal as like if Charlie Watts was being replaced, you know what I mean? So I think people will be looking. It's sad to hear that, actually, because it's understandable. Yeah. But it's hard to do comparisons. No, I'm not comparing, but I do think people will be kind of checking it out, and I want to go on record saying I wish a guy filling in for you all the luck in the world. But I think he'll be. Obviously, they're not going to pick somebody if they don't think they're at least at that caliber, That's right. Yeah. That's exactly right, to be honest with you. Yeah. Right there. So, and getting back to CCR, I want to talk about a few more of his songs. Some of the hits that I really have dug over years. Like another song I really always loved was "Down on the Corner," which to me, I love that song. To me, I just love Stu Cook's bass line that runs through that whole entire song. That's like the main riff. Right there. Oh, absolutely. And in fact, I usually have a mounted cowbell. Yeah. For that one, and so I am able to do the hi-hat. Yeah. And the cowbell, just like on the record. Right. And if people they know it. They start hearing it. They know it right away. I mean, every time that comes on the radio, I hear that riff, and before the first lyric even kicks in, I know the song. Oh, absolutely. It's one of those that people just really enjoy dancing to. It's got it's like an 85. I'll give it. It's got a good beat. I can dance to it. Oh yeah. But that's a really enjoyable song. Love the harmonies in that song. Yeah. And it's such a fun one to play. So yeah, what others? And when I hear the lyrics kicking and everything, and down on the corner, out in the street, I could just picture these kids like out on the street, playing on the street corner in front of the courthouse, right before supper time. I could just picture it. Right, they're supposed to be like describing a skiffle band. Yeah. With the washboards and the one string bass thing, and that's the whole idea behind that song. And I even dig the fact that he makes up the name William the Poor Boy. That's supposed to be like the name of his fictional band, that he's describing or whatever throughout the song. And then also, like you were bringing up, interesting enough, if you go on YouTube, you find a lot of these old video clips they have for CCR, and there's this one I think they did on a TV show, and it's oddly enough of Down on the Corner. And you got the two Fogerty brothers up there, playing the guitar. You got Stu doing his bass, but then you got Clifford not on the drums, but he's got this weird kind of I think it might be a washboard, like you're saying, instrument I never seen before. But it's just showing you what a band can do, do something a little different. Yeah, he's got a great beard, by the way. Yeah.
And you know, he's always kind of looked the same, except I think as he got older, maybe he worked out a little more. He was a little more muscular, but that's about it.
Well, you need to in order to be able to keep going. You know, I do get out there and do my power walks and runs and stuff just to be able to keep going.
Yeah.
You know, time catches up with you.
Oh yeah.
What else tickles your fancy for their songs?
Okay, let's see here. I got kind of a greatest hits there in front of me. Well, let's see. Another song that I kind of that I heard John talk about is there's this one called, let's see, Someday Never Comes, and I guess it's about when he divorced his first wife. Very much like when he was young and his parents divorced. I guess his son had a hard time dealing with the divorce, and this was kind of like if you listen to the song, it's kind of like a letter he wrote to his son, and he created the song out of it.
Yeah, that almost has two different parts. Mm-hmm. It's got the sadder part, and it's got the more rocking part, but it comes back to the sadder part. Mm-hmm. But that's another good one. Not one of my total favorites, but it's part of their lexicon, and when it comes on, I listen to it. I enjoy it.
I'll be honest. It's not one I listen to all the time or hardly ever, but I just picked up on it because I heard him talking about it one time, and it's kind of interesting, and it just shows his gift as a songwriter, you know. But probably one of my all-time favorites, I got to be honest, the song you brought up earlier, Up Around the Bend, just because I love that beat. I love the uplift. It's such an uplifting song, you know, and I don't even, and the lyrics are kind of nonsensical. I don't really necessarily know what it's about, but it doesn't matter. It's just a great sounding song.
No, absolutely. The sound is fantastic. You're right about the beat.
Yeah.
Something about that beat that's the beat that drives me personally. That and the vocals on that are killer.
Oh yeah.
And just a cool, fun song. Also, the guitar lead. Yeah. Wow, that thing smokes.
And you know, Run Through the Jungle. I have to bring that only up because I heard John over the years talk a lot about that song for a simple fact that when he put out a solo album in 1985, I believe it was, the owner of his record company was actually trying to sue him, saying that one of his songs on the solo album sounded too much like Run Through the Jungle, and he joked about, well, that's because I wrote both songs. That's why it sounds like me. I'm being sued for sounding too much like myself.
I remember. That's funny. Wasn't that the album Center Field?
Yeah, that's it. That's the one.
Right. I had that record too, and it was like listening to CCR just with better recording.
and you know what's I don't know if you know this, Vince, but at that time, that Center Field was coming out. He was in all these lawsuits with other guys in the band, with the record label, and it got so much to the point that he refused to play any of these CCR hits for like 10 years, and he's like, I'm just gonna CCR has been broken up for many years. I'm a solo artist now. I'm just gonna do these solo tunes, and it left such a bad taste in his mouth. He's like, I'm never gonna perform these songs again. But eventually, I guess it was Jerry Garcia of the Grateful Dead. He was still alive at the time. He told John, "Hey, what are you doing? That's who you are. Your fans want to hear that music."
Well, you know, I'm glad that he caved, shall we say, and because the rest of us got the benefit. Some of his live, there's a couple of live concerts from recent memory that are stellar, and the drummer in one of them, and maybe even in both, this guy's name is Kenny Aronoff.
Oh, he's played with everybody from Bon Jovi to John Mellencamp. Yeah, I know he.
Everyone, and the dude is just super solid. Yeah. And when I saw them playing together, it was like, okay. So John really gets off on Kenny. You could tell when you look at the performance how the drums again are driving all those arrangements. Yeah, it's a thing of beauty.
Yeah, I'll tell you another thing I haven't got my hands on yet, but if you're a John Fogerty fan, in addition to the Live at Woodstock CD, there's I think I forget where it was recorded, but there's a John Fogerty live CD that came out, I think, just this year, and it's him playing like the hits from the last 50 years or something, like solo stuff and CCR stuff. I think they actually got a Blu-ray of it as well that you can get.
Wow, I did not know that. I did not know that. Yeah. Thanks for the 411.
Yeah, and you can, if you want to find out more, I know you can go on Amazon and find it there.
Absolutely.
And now getting back to the live CD for a minute, like you went down the song list, but like the songs that are on the CD, like what are the songs that really stand out to you? Like if you had to say, what was your favorite to play or just listen to as a fan?
You're talking about on this CD?
On the like you know, we got Born on the Bow, Green River, 99, the live at Woodstock CD I'm talking about.
Well, the real early stuff, the 99 and a half, and what's the other one? Susie Q. Just to hear the real old stuff, the originals from way back.
Yeah,
I Put a Spell on You. Those to me have more meaning than the more commercial stuff that came out with the second record.
Oh yeah,
you know, because I've heard the second record a million times and played those songs a million times. Yeah. So to hear those three in particular are the ones that stand out to me.
Yeah.
Only because.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting. Like you said, that's the first thing I picked up on the CD here is it's a lot of the earlier hits. Like I said, it's when the band was really young and hungry, and they're just starting out, and so you're not going to get a lot of the big hits we were talking about on here. But that's what makes it kind of worthwhile. But as far as the live CD here, I really love. I don't know what it is. Just the overall feel of the song. Bad Moon Rising. I think the fact that you got the roar of the crowd there. Even on like Proud Mary. I mean, especially Bad Moon Rising. It's like. It's live. It's in your face. I feel like I was there.
Well, and not only that, but that album had just come out just
before Woodstock.
And it shot up the charts. Those were two big hits back to back. That was in that 45-minute performance, and it's going to bring about some of the loudest cheers.
Yeah, and you know, and you know,
just a recognition.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting is. You would think a band like this that had as many hits that they would be raking in the bucks, but I understand it was only like a few years ago. But I think after the guy that owned Fantasy Records, Sal Zantz, passed away, that John got all the rights back to his CCR songs, and so that's a big reason why he refused to play those songs for 10 years. Because he's like, well, I'm not making any money. But the president of the record company, he owns all the rights to all these songs. He's making money, so why should I bother? Playing them. So, but eventually, I guess he realized you're up there playing them for the fans, not necessarily.
Well, God bless Jerry Garcia for talking him into doing those old songs.
Yeah, but I got to say, you know, again, it's a very on one hand, a very successful band. They had all these legal issues, but could you imagine having all these hits on the radio, these hit songs that you wrote, and the record companies getting the bulk of the money, not you?
Must eat you up.
Yeah.
And then one after the other, they had so many songs that hit the top 40.
Yeah.
A few in the top 10, a couple at number 1. What more do you want?
Oh, I know.
But back in that day, and it still was, it wasn't like you really got a big cut of the albums.
Yeah.
You made money off of live touring.
Yeah.
It still is that way.
Yeah.
You know, the touring is to support the album, and the album is what gets you to tour.
Oh yeah, it's interesting you say that, Vince. Yeah, it's interesting you say that because back in the day, like even when I was growing up, you would go see a band because they just had released a new album or they were getting ready to release a new album, and the tour was to support that. Nowadays, you have a lot of bands that just live off a legacy, don't even bother, because let's be honest, there are, you know, not as many people are buying CDs like they once did, and so that's just the way the music business is. But a lot of bands, like you take a band like Poison, they don't even go and tour all year round. They live off their legacy. You know, people come out it's a nostalgia thing, but they can go out like for just the summer, and they make a ton of bank. You know what I mean?
Sure, absolutely. Also, remember many of these of the younger artists who bypassed the big labels because there are no big labels anymore.
Yeah.
It's basically all indie stuff. You produce your own. You're in your garage with your music, Pro Tools, and all these different things. Yeah. You could do it in your living room. You could do it in your bedroom. You could do it in your closet.
Yeah, and people do, and it sounds just as good. That's the truth.
Absolutely, and that's so. Technology's come a long way. It's taken some of the soul out of the old-fashioned studio recordings, the acetates, all that stuff. Yeah. So this is all completely different realm that we've been in the last 10 years, 15 years, least, something like that.
Yeah.
You know, so and you can't knock it.
Yeah, and you know,
they can still get that music out there. They can still get a gazillion likes on YouTube.
Oh yeah, and you know, probably the last song I got to really bring up that I really have a lot of love for is Lodi, which is an interesting song because it's got a nice little beat to it. It's kind of about where the Fogerty brothers grew up. In this,
I love that one because it's like a lazy Sunday afternoon.
Exactly.
Stuck in Lodi again, baby.
Yeah, and I used to have an old aunt that lived there, and my father would take us like once a year to go visit her, and it's funny. It's just this one small little town in Northern California, but you know, you don't hear too much about it. But I thought that's cool. They got a little song about Lodi, and probably another band I heard actually do the song, but they're covering this version, obviously, is Tesla. They got a version of off their live album, 5-Man Acoustical Jam.
I didn't know that. Wow,
and
very cool.
And it's cool to check that out.
Yeah. I love that lyric, oh Lord, stuck in Lodi again.
Yeah, and
that's supposed to be what it's if you talked.
Yeah.
If you just said it, that's what it would be. You know?
See, I again, when I hear that song every time, I can just visualize it. I mean, you know, like Down with the Corn, I can visualize, you know, being stuck in a town, playing a gig, having no way to get out. You know, you're stuck in the town or whatever. And it's like, if I had $1 million for every song I sang, you know, I mean, I could just picture a guy up on stage trying to, you know, break into the music biz.
See, I think of part one is looking out my back door.
Yeah.
And part two is Lodi.
That's interesting. Yeah.
If you could think of it in that way. Those guys, what a unique perspective on life. Really cool stuff.
And see, that's what I love about these songs, because they're a working class band talking about working class people. And like you said, a lot of these songs we can visualize what they're talking about.
Right. We've lived a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, and it's interesting, too, because you can tell Fogerty is a writer. He doesn't just write about like making love in the backseat. I mean, he writes from things that he experienced in life. These are like pages out of his life, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's what makes them such, you know, great songs. And before we wrap this up, Vince, I had to like I was telling you, I find it very interesting that you know, Tom Fogerty left the band in 1971. Then they did one final album, and there was such a bad response to the album that they didn't even tour behind it. They just kind of decided, okay, that's it, we're gonna. But before they put out the album, John Fogerty had this thing, because the guys, he was always battling with these guys, and they want to be involved in writing. So he told them, you know what, Tom's no longer in the band. I'll tell you what, I'm gonna write a third of the album. You guys, I want you to write a third. You're gonna sing on your songs. I'm not gonna sing on your songs. I'm not gonna help you with your songs. You put your songs together. And it was kind of cut that way. And I think that's part of the reason there was such a poor response. But also, he kind of gave them what they had always been asking for, because he knew it was going to fail. And I think at that point, once Tom was out of the band, I think he just wanted to get out of the band, and that was his way of doing it.
Oh, absolutely. The magic had gone at that point.
Yeah.
You know, it was sometimes it's just time to move along, and you know it on the inside, and nobody can tell you when it's time to move along. You just know it. You know?
And you know, Vince, has been great talking to you, but before we wrap this up, I just want to say too, I think it's interesting that all these bands that played Woodstock, the majority of them went on to have some kind of successful music career, and you know, later in later episodes, we're also going to be talking some of the lesser known bands like Sweetwater. You're talking about that maybe. That was probably the biggest event they ever played, and then they kind of faded out. But everybody, I think, that played Woodstock, they at least had some kind of musical talent, if you know what I mean. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been on that stage.
It helped keep and put other people on the map. The ones that were already big,
the
Who, Santana was basically unknown until then.
Yeah, that's one band I want to talk about in a future episode. But I think that about covers it today, Vince, unless there's anything else you want to discuss.
Well, just thank you very much for this CD. First of all, I didn't get a chance to thank you.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Thank you for, just so you guys know, Jason actually mailed me this Credence Clearwater Revival live at Woodstock. It's a real great piece of work. There's a nice photo on the cover, black and white.
Yeah.
And if you ever get a chance to hear it or go buy it, download it, enjoy it.
Yeah, I just say anybody who wants to purchase it, it's called Credence Clearwater Revival Live at Woodstock, and it's nice little packaging. It's not a huge, like the CD doesn't weigh 50 pounds or anything like that, but it's nice little cover, and it's worth checking out. And you get it on Amazon. That's where I got it. I think that's probably the easiest place to get it.
Absolutely, yeah. And thanks for having me again. These chats are fun.
Yeah, of course.
It's great to reminisce. You've become a friend.
Well, thanks, Vincent. So and I'll just say this: what's cool about this to me, this conversation we're having, ongoing conversation about Woodstock, is I'm talking. You and me are. There's quite a difference in our age, but it's cool because we're both into music. And then my perspective is, I'm a guy that always heard about Woodstock. I wasn't even born then. I'm talking to a guy that was actually there, so it's kind of cool to have somebody tell me, no, I was there. I can actually tell you what it was about.
Well, for the dozen hours I was there,
yeah.
About 14, 15 hours. That's all I can give you.
Well, hey, it's given us 3 episodes so far, and I will say this, Vince. I think you're great at doing the Rolling Stone thing, but you're such a historian on this Woodstock stuff and these bands. I think you should consider when the time comes. Doing like a one-off show or something, getting together with some of your friends and playing some of this music from these bands at Woodstock, or even the 60 British Invasion, like you were saying.
Well, you know what? That will probably happen. We got to get rid of this COVID thing, and let's get back to living. But right now, I just need that pause. Oh, by the way, for those of you who are listening, we are going to do a live stream on Friday, August the 1st, from the Belly Up Tavern, there's Mick Adams and the Stones.
Okay.
I'll be doing that show. We're going to do at least a full 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours. I'm not 100% sure about the length of the show. All online. So go to mickadamsandthestones.com or go to our Facebook page, and you'll be able to stream it, I believe, there.
Wow.
And it's going to be fun. We're going to do the whole shooting match, the lights, the costumes.
Wow.
It's going to be great.
Well,
tune in, please. Okay, I believe it's 8 or 8:30.
Okay.
On Friday the 1st. I'm not 100% sure of the time.
Well, Vince, we'll follow up on that, and we'll spread the word for you. And after that event, I'm going to be talking to you about that. But thanks so much for doing this, and I'll be talking to you next week. Okay? Thanks so much, buddy.
You're very welcome.
Take care.